You know what's tough about this time of year when it comes to content creation in the NBA is that at any moment you could get the shams bomb of a blockbuster trade, or not even a blockbuster trade, but any type of transaction that could make what you're currently working on useless, and you have to scrap the whole entire video. Like, I was just a few minutes away from posting a video about Jalen Green and a trade that involved him and being shipped out to the Bulls in a 3-team deal to help facilitate the Kevin Durant trade going to the Rockets. And then, of course, we got the breaking news of KD heading to Houston without the Bulls being involved in that trade, which made everything I discussed in that video moot. So I say all this because it's quite possible that by the time I upload this video, or by the time you're watching it, some of this could already be outdated based on how fluid and how quickly things can change in this league, especially when the draft is right around the corner. But anyway, with the draft taking place later tonight, the Bulls, as of right now, at the time of this recording, are still slated to draft 12th overall, and with the possibility of additional moves being made, given we typically see a fair amount of trades on draft night, I actually wanted to talk about how, oddly enough, the Bulls might find themselves in a position to be aggressive, not only on draft night, but this offseason in general, simply because of how wide open the Eastern Conference is going to be this year, and also just how some of the trades that have occurred thus far leading up to the draft could have implications on this upcoming season for the Chicago Bulls. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea going into the draft what the Bulls are going to do, who they're going to draft. Are they going to trade up? Are they going to trade down? Are they even going to do something stupid like, say, trade away their pick for a player that isn't really going to move the needle for them? I really don't know, because the reporting on this has kind of been all over the place, and this front office has been wildly unpredictable at times in terms of what they're going to do on a season-by-season basis. But what I do know is the Bulls are kind of in a uniquely shaped position where they can either truly try to embrace the rebuilding route, embrace the tank, if you will, and try and secure a top pick in what is expected to be a stacked draft class, although they said that about the 2025 draft class, and now it's looking more like a top 2 heavy class. Or, and I know this is probably going to be painful to hear for some Bulls fans, but do they try and push to win now because of, quite frankly, how weak the Eastern Conference is going to look next season? I mean, when you look at everything that happened during the playoffs, namely to superstar players, teams' franchise players, there is a world where you could conceivably make the playoffs and even make a deep playoff run, especially after the kind of run we saw from the Indiana Pacers, who play a similar style and a similar brand of basketball from what the Bulls are wanting to play, or at least trying to emulate. Like, we already know, the Celtics, while they'll still be a good team because they have great players and depth on their roster, we know they're not going to be the same team next season that's going to be contending for a title next year without Jason Tatum, and then obviously the trades to Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday to try to get under the second apron. The Pacers, who were incredible in the postseason run, and my heart breaks for Pacers fans after witnessing what happened to Tyrese Haliburton in Game 7, but they're going to have a gap year next year without Haliburton being in the lineup, who's expected to miss the whole season after that Achilles injury. The Bucks, who the hell knows what's going to happen with them, knowing Dame is going to be out all of next season. Giannis trade rumors continue to swirl, little to no depth otherwise. They're not going to be as good next season unless they make a big trade to try and put a star-level player alongside Giannis. The Knicks, I wouldn't be surprised if they spiral out of control and return back to being the laughingstock of the NBA after they fired Tom Thibodeau, and now hearing all the reporting coming out that things really weren't exactly rosy in the locker room throughout the season for the Knicks. There is just going to be a lot of unpredictability in the Eastern Conference in this upcoming year. No clear-cut contender. And while yes, a team like the Magic are going to be better after the Desmond Bane trade, even though I still don't think that pushes them to title contention, especially with their problems that they've had with injuries over the years. The Cavs, sure, good regular season team, but they don't move me in the playoffs, and they're also getting dangerously close to salary cap hell with little depth on their roster outside of their starting 5. The Pistons you would expect to be better and build upon their rise from last year. And then the Sixers, I almost forgot about them, probably because there really isn't anything to get excited about that team, as it's unclear how effective Joel Embiid will be. Paul George has been looking washed. They do have the number 3 overall pick though, which will be intriguing, but still, I don't see the Sixers making any noise into the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, the teams that were bad last season are still going to be bad coming into this season. The Wizards, the Hornets, Nets, none of them landed Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper like they were hoping. And so in light of all of this, I will not be shocked if we see AK licking his chops, getting a little trigger happy, and pushing to be aggressive this offseason to see if he can push to make the playoffs. Not saying that's the right approach, but it wouldn't shock me if they went down this route. Now, what would an aggressive approach look like? Well, it's likely going to come in the form of younger players, but younger players with experience, which has been the recent archetype of AK and what he's been trying to employ with this team. Yes, we've heard all the rumors of a potential sign and trade with Jonathan Kuminga, which I have my reservations around that, especially depending on the kind of contract the Bulls are going to have to pay him for a player that is very talented, a gifted athlete that can impact the floor, but also a player that isn't the best decision maker, isn't the best on defense. But getting a player like Kuminga, even if it's for the short term, does elevate you a bit. And who knows, maybe in a new role, a new environment, a team that is going to prioritize his playing time, maybe he thrives. I have my doubts because coaches don't give players DMPs in the playoffs for no reason, but he's still young, and maybe with the proper development, there is some upside there. But to me, the bigger thing is the Bulls now have control of all their first round picks for the first time in a long time. And would AK make an all-in type move where he trades, say, what the Magic did, or even 4 or 5 first-round picks for a big-name player like Giannis? I think it's very unlikely, but not out of the realm of possibility. Or how about Zion Williamson? Obviously, you're not going to have to give up that many picks for him, or at least the Bulls sure as hell should not for a player that is as injury-prone as he is. But a player like Zion, who fits the mold of what AK is looking for, a big name in a big market that, when healthy, could absolutely elevate this team. Or say a player like Jaren Jackson Jr., even though early reports are indicating that just because the Grizzlies moved on from Bane, they're not blowing it up and moving off of Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr., but I wouldn't rule it out if AK overpays in a trade package for that guy, who would be a great fit for the Bulls in terms of what they need from a big man who can protect the rim, but also can be a lob threat and a rim runner in the open court. But man, if they have to trade multiple first-round picks to get him, and once again mortgage their future for a star big man like they did with Vucevic, then yeah, I'm going to have my reservations on this. The other thing the Bulls could do, which we've talked about this before, is trade up in the draft to try and land a more surefire prospect than what they would otherwise potentially get at number 12. I'm opposed to this, as I think outside of number 1 and number 2, the separation in talent level between 3 and 12 isn't enough to give up future assets to draft earlier, especially for a player like Ace Bailey, who I talked about in my prior video, who I am not high on and very much opposed to the Bulls trading up to get him. But either way, it's another thing I would not be surprised to see an aggressive move the Bulls would potentially try and make to be more competitive for this upcoming season. And then, of course, and I would probably lose it if the Bulls actually went down this route, but there have been some reports, some rumors of the Bulls being a team interested in trading for Bradley Beal. Now, if the Suns are willing to throw multiple first-round picks the Bulls' way for taking on Beal's contract, okay, I might be able to get behind that, especially if you're able to have Beal suddenly play well, recoup some of his value, maybe flip him before the deadline. But I would venture to say you shouldn't expect much to be attached in a trade package for Bradley Beal because the Suns don't really have the first-round draft picks to be able to give up. But yeah, another thing I could easily see AK doing, bringing in a veteran player, a former All-Star, a former player of Billy Donovan in his college coaching days, bring him in, help the young guys, help for the playoff push, and then try and trade him down the line. I think it would be a disaster, but I wouldn't put it past this front office to do. Anyway, I guess my point in all this is because we know the East is going to be wide open, even more so than it has been in the past, and given we know AK's temperament, his level of impatience, his desire to try and accelerate things, I would not be surprised if the Bulls are big-time buyers this offseason. But you guys let me know what you think. You let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.